In today's tutorial, let's do this crochet poncho together. This is not as hard as it looks, and I'm going to show you how to cheat the system at the same time. Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd as well as Yarnspirations.com. I'm your host Mikey. Today we're going to work on this crochet poncho together, and here's what the model is wearing, and here's my example here. In my photograph, my particular poncho is the 5 extra large. Yes, it is. I decided to go as big as I could go so that I could use a Caron cake in order to show how to demonstrate this yarn to see if I could get it to go as far as I did, and I was so happy that I could. So what you're looking at here is that the model is wearing 2 panels, one on the front and one on the back, and it's joined right up at the seam line here, and you have to sew it. But in today's tutorial I'm going to show you a way of avoiding the sewing completely right on her sleeve right here, and it happens on both sides in order to create a join that you join as you go. So in today's tutorial I'm going to break it up into 2 parts. I'm going to show you how to do one of these panels, and it's once to get you started and get you on your way. It's just a matter of it's going to get bigger and bigger. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and do the second panel, but I'm going to cheat the system and show you how I would do it in exactly the way I did it, or you can just do the second panel the exact same way as well. So in my version of the crochet poncho I actually used 2 balls of Caron Cakes just like so, and the color I used was Cherry Chip. This here is Boston Cream, so you can see that it would have a really beautiful mix of more neutral colors if you prefer that in a poncho. So what I decided to do is that I used 1 ball for the front and 1 ball for the back. In this poncho there's no front or back really, it's just a matter of interpretation on how you want to read it, but they're both exactly the same panel so you can wear either or. So what I did is that I did the front panel with 1 fresh ball, and then I put the ball aside, and then I did the second panel, and then I put that ball aside. And then what I do at the very end, we have a lot of fringe that is needed. So you'll see that there's 2 different colors. Well, one color is from one ball and one color is from the other. Chances are your yarn will not be at the same level of transition. So the next ball may not be in this transition. It could start off darker and then work its way to light, etc. So therefore you have 2 strands and you grab 2 strands at the same time, and chances are they will be a different color like you see here. It gives you a nice effect. I then work from the bottom of the point all the way to the shoulder and then down the other side. So that's something that I kind of did for myself. So within today's pattern you can use the Bernat satin or you can use the Caron Cake. It's up to you, and I'm gonna substitute because I'm using Caron Cake to 5mm size H, but if you want to use the Bernat satin you'll need a 4.5mm, and what is that? That is a size US size 7 just like you see here. So let's get you started on this and let's go through some of the tips, and you'll find that this will work out pretty quick. So I'm just going to use one color for today's tutorial because it's always easier to teach in one color than it is to have switching colors. People get confused by that. So let's start off with the slip knot, and let's put our hook, and I am using a Caron Cake size 5.5mm size H just like that. So to start off, and you'll need to do back and front panel this way if you don't plan on doing the stitch slip stitching that I will demonstrate later. So if you're not doing it with the slip stitch, both of them have to be chaining of 58. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and go all the way to 58 for me and meet me back right here. So I now have my 58 chains, and now what I want to do for row number 1 is that I want to single crochet back along this chain. So going second chain from the hook, so 1 and 2, just count back, go to the back hump of this stitch only, and just start single crocheting all the way across your chain. So there's no fancy work here. This is just single crochet in the back hump of the chain, and this will create a nice finish, and this is going to appear at your neck, so you're going to want a nice edge there anyway, so I recommend this strongly. So single crochet in every chain going all the way back across. So I'm coming up all the way across, and I'm just single crocheting right into the final chain. So I'm going to take you back to my example because the next row is going to throw you off track. It did for me both times that I did it, and I want to show you a little trick, and this will help you as well. Okay, so here's where we are right now. This is the chain that's done, and now we have to start establishing the chevron in order to get this shape. So we're gonna do that right now. So on the ends right here, we're always gonna end up, when it's solid here on the ends, there's always gonna be 4 double crochets side by side. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when what everyone else is that you'll see that there's 3 double crochets. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4. You get that? So the ends always have 4 when it's solid on the end, and then the other row is just literally a 1 up, and then it creates a gap so that the next time it can come back in. So here's the thing. it's really kind of confusing on this pattern, and I had to go through it many times in order to get this right here. So here's the thing, count how many spaces are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So you know that once you get 5 of these spaces done and you start this, you know that this is where the split is going to happen. So you're going to put in 2 double crochets, you're going to put in 1 more double crochet, chain 3, 1 more double crochet into the same one, and then 2 more side by side. You see that? So there's a total of 5 stitches used up right here, but you'll see that it divides off. Then this side is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It takes you right to the end. For myself, I either kept going a little bit too short or I kept going too far in order to get this point, because I was just kind of misreading the directions. Don't even get me on about that. It does happen to the best of us, but if you can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and you're looking for that, it makes it a lot simpler. So let's begin a row number I believe this is row number 2, and this is when we're gonna now start establishing this pattern. And then what's gonna happen in row number 3 and 4 is just a matter of repeating. So we have to do row number 2 first in order to get this to be established, and then the next 2 just keep going. So once you get the next 2, then 3 and 4, you'll see that it's gonna be solid space, solid space, solid space, and it keeps getting bigger. Right at this section here, the sides don't gain any more here. It's all happening right in the middle. So let's begin row number 2. So let's begin row number 2. We're gonna chain 3, counts as a double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, and remember what I said, the outsides here is gonna have 4 double crochets in a row. So the next 3 are going to be double crochet. Okay, don't think about that last one, that chain 3, as part of the group of 3. It's more like a border than anything. Okay, so you got 4 double crochets there if you count that as a double crochet. So then we're gonna chain 2, skip 2 stitches, and then go to the third one, and we're placing 3 double crochets in a row again. So 1, 2, and 3, just like that. So I'm looking for 5 of these spaces just like that to happen. So chain 2, skip 2, and double crochet in the next 3. So this is gonna be the second space so far of 5 that I need, followed by a chain 2, skip 2, and double crochet into the next 3. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now you can see 3 spaces. You need a total of 5, so chain 2, skip 2, 3 double crochets into the next 1 double crochet in the next 3. Okay, and now you got 4 spaces. Let's see. So 1 more, so chain 2, and this creates the 5th space. So watch what we're gonna do. So we're gonna double crochet in the next 2 only. Yes, next 2 only I said. Okay, so this here is your 5 spaces. Do you see it? So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now you've got 2 in here. The next one is gonna be a double crochet, but this is the very middle one, so you're gonna follow it by a chain 3, 1, 2, 3, coming back into that same stitch right in the same one, and that creates that center, and then double crochet in the next 2. So there's your 5 stitches used up right in the center to create the turn like that. Okay, so now let's continue to move down the other side. So we're gonna chain 2, skip 2, and 3 double crochets in a row. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and I want you to skip 2 or chain 2 and skip 2 and 3 in a row. So I just keep doing that until I get close to the end. So how many double crochets should I end up with in the very end? If you're following this, should be 4 right in the end. So chain 2, skip 2, and 3 in a row. So there should be 5 spaces left open on this side once you get beyond that center. So here's the center. So I see 3 so far. So chain 2, skip 2, and 3 double crochets in a row. Okay, and now there's 4 that you see, and now the final. So chain 2, skip 2, and you're gonna do 3 in a row, but this is an end, so if you've done it right, there should be 1 stitch left over, and that is your 4th double crochet, which equals the end, just like that. Do you get that? So now you have it now established as your point, and now we're gonna begin to move up to row number 3, and rows number 3 and 4 are the repeat pattern for the entire duration of the length of this poncho. So let's begin. Whenever it's solid underneath, this is row number 3, is that the next one has to be a space right above it, and then this fills in with the double crochets that you have. So whenever it's solid underneath, you are going to simply chain up 5. So watch, 1, 2, 3, there's your double crochet, and chain 2. That's your chain 2 space like you saw here. So that 5 equals all of that. You're then just gonna reach over to the first space here, and you're going to double crochet 3 times into that space. So 1, 2, and 3, followed by chain 2, 1 and 2, and jump to the next space, and keep doing that all the way to the center point. Okay, so you're just double crocheting 3 times into each space, so it's like a granny square. So chain 2, going into the next space, and I'm watching for the center point. You can't miss it really. It's pretty obvious no matter what colors you're using. And chain 2, and I'm continuing to look for the spaces. So the center point is where this is growing each and every time, because we're adding more stitches to the center, and I'll show you that when we get there. So chain 2, keep moving along, and the next one is the center point. So the center point, the way that we do it, ends up creating an extra space every row on both sides, and therefore it grows out just like you see. So the next one is this. Okay, it's right in the center, so chain 2, and in the center space what you want to do is 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3, just like that. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, coming into that exact same space once again, and then that is your next new corner that keeps the pattern growing. So once you have that done, then chain 2 and keep working along until the very end. This pattern is exceptionally easy to master. So what I'm gonna do it for you at the end is that once I show you then row number 4, and then show you that you just gotta repeat and to get to the size that you want. The size dimensions are on the pattern as far as how many inches that you want it to go, and it tells you how many rows as well. So the 5 extra large in my particular example was 28 rows, and what is it here for here? Extra small to medium is 20 rows altogether, and then large to 2 extra large is 24 rows. So each one of these counts as a row. So this is 1 and then 2. So I'm coming up close to the end. So you remember that we kind of started off with the gap space on the other side, so therefore this side should also have a gap space when you're finishing it, and I'll show you that in a moment. So this is the last space here, and to finish this then is just chain 2 like so. Right into the very end is just gonna be a double crochet. So that double crochet plus these chain 2 equals chain 5 when we started before. So let's turn our work and go for row number 4. So do you see it? So it was solid here, now it has space, next time it will be solid, and that's gonna be row number 4. So you're gonna repeat 3 and 4 over and over and over. So let's move on to row number 4. So moving on to row number 4, this time we're gonna fill in this space then, and then we're gonna continue to move along. So we're gonna chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and remember how there was 4 here? Well, there's gonna be 4 here too. So the chaining of 3 counts as one of them, and then in this space you're gonna put in your 3 double crochets. So that gives you back your 4 right on the very edge once again. And then continue to chain 2 and move along to the next space. You can see how you can go so fast on this particular project. If you're working in spaces and just not really having to think much, it's a great TV project. And I'm working my way all the way to the center point. So what are you gonna do at the center point while we get there? You're gonna put in 3 double crochet, chain 3, 3 double crochet right into the corner. So I'm moving up to my regular speed because these are very much like a granny square. Chances are if you're doing a poncho you probably have done a granny square before, and you were looking for that center point, and it's going to be obvious because there's going to appear to be two of those sets of double crochets inside one stitch, just like you see there. So chain 2. So in this next corner then you're going to put in 3 double crochet. 1, I should actually wrap my hook first or that'll be a single crochet, and this is the third one. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. So the chain 3 is only on the corners, okay, in between the spaces, and you're putting in 3 more double crochet to turn the corner, and then chain 2 and work your way down the end on the other side. So that's all you got to do, and then you just go back to just doing row number 3 again, and it's just a matter of just paying attention to the sides. So because we have to do 2 panels identical to each other, I'm gonna show you a way of no sewing. So technically you have to do 2 panels and then sew it together, but if you use a solid color you'll never see pretty much the sewing. But if you're gonna use variegated like the Caron Cakes, you're gonna want to use a slip stitching technique, but it also looks nicer too versus sewing. So that's a choice that you can make, and it's up to you. It's what I did for myself. I don't like to sew if I really don't have to, so I figured out how to do it, and it's a little more complex to start, but once you get it started it's actually pretty simple to follow along. So I'm coming up near to the end. I got a space left and that's it. So chain 2. So I'm gonna do 3 double crochets. So watch this, 3 into the last space, and what I have to do is count up to the third one. So 1, 2 and 3, and go right into an actual chain 3 for the final double crochet. Now that is your 4th back on the edge. So let's just turn our work and go for row number 3 one more time. So row number 3, if you remember, you see it's a space. So you chain up 3, 1, 2, 3 plus another 2, so it's 5. Okay, so that's chaining up 3 counts as double crochet. The chain 2 is kind of the bending over to create the new space. Jump right to the first space like so. So what I want to do now is that you just have to continue till you get to the length that you want. Just look at the pattern for the length. You'll find that will go pretty easy, but I'm gonna start a second one, and I'm gonna show you how to do the second one with the slip stitching technique if you don't want to sew, and I would highly recommend it. So let's come back here in just a moment. So at this point in the tutorial you would have had the whole panel done. So I just have a small example because I want to show you how to do the slip stitching on the end. So you're gonna do the whole thing. You're just going all the way until it tells you to stop for the amount of rows for the size that you want. So the second one you can do exactly identical to the way I just showed you, or you can use the slip stitching technique that I'm about to show you. So with a different color yarn, just to prove that this works, is that I want you to create a slip knot first. And instead of creating a chain that stands alone, I want you to join it to this one here as you go. So just right in the very end, just insert your hook like so, and then just wrap it and pull through. So you've now just joined it like that. So do you remember how many that you have to do? You had to chain 58. This joining is gonna count as one of them. So this is one already done. So I want you to now chain, and you're gonna chain all the way, and the 58th chain should be the attaching to the other side of the neck here. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and go all the way here and go to all the way to 57 for me, and then 58 we're gonna join, and I'll meet you here in just a moment. So remember the first one counts as 1, and so you just gotta go 2, 3, 4, 5 and just continue like that until you get to 57, and then you're gonna join. So I'm now on chain number 57 and 58. I want to join it to the very top corner here. Okay, so just use that as your 58th and just join it with the slip stitch. So now you have a chain that is extending across, and now we're gonna build out. So every time we go to join now, we're gonna join along this side edges here. So let's begin, and we're following the pattern as usual, but we're gonna just do a slight twist with the slip stitching at the end. So what I want you to do is that we want to go second chain from the hook. So again, just coming from the back, so just start immediately second chain in, and I want you to start and just single crochet yourself all the way back across this line just like that. Okay, and I'll meet you at the end of this chain. So as I come all the way across, I want to make sure that this is not twisted in any way, so it's kind of laying flat, and as I come to the very end, all I want to do then is slip stitch to the start. like so. So now we're going to begin the second row, which is going to establish the chevron but on this side. So let's turn our work. So but before we turn our work, we need to move up. So do you see how this is filled in space here? So we need to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. This counts as that chaining 3 that we normally would have started with, and on the top of the chain 3 you're just gonna slip it to the top of the other one that you see that is directly right beside it. You see that? Now we're gonna turn. So do you remember how many spaces that we had in order to create till we get to the center? Well, we had a total of 5. So just right where we are right now, just move to the next 3 for double crochet in a row. So 1, 2 and 3, just like that. Okay, so it's the same on the other side. If you look at it from that point of view, you had 4 double crochets in a row. Now you got 4 on this side. So that chaining of 3 with the slip stitch is 1, 2, 3 and 4. So chain 2, and you were looking for 5 empty spaces before implementing the corner once again. So we're just gonna continue to move along like we would have normally. So the slip stitching allows you to be able to not have to sew at the end, and you can build this as you go as well, which makes it a lot more simpler. It's one less headache at the end. And it allows you to use different colors without having to worry about finding what yarns are gonna go together when you use a darning needle. So let's take a look. I think that there's 3 empty spaces so far. We want a total of 5 of them before we do a corner. So we got 3, chain 2, skipping 2. So it's just like we did the other side. The only difference is that the sides are attached to each other as you do this process. Okay, chain 2, and I got one more to do to get my 5. And let me just check it. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So I got 2 in a row so far. So the next one is gonna be 1 double crochet, and this is the very corner. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and into the same one you're gonna double crochet again to create that bend, and then the next 2 are double crochets, 1 and 2, and now you're gonna move along this side. So here's your new corner. So chain 2. So the trick on this particular bad boy is to identify the edges when you're moving up, when you're doing the slip stitching technique. And honestly, it's not a hard thing to do at all. You just got to get used to it. I think in the very beginning I was kind of thrown off a little bit, but you know what, it's not something that was written anywhere. I just figured it out so that I could ease it up for myself. You know, I like to cheat the system and make things easier if I can. And especially if you're using variegated yarn like the Caron Cakes, you're gonna want a slip stitching technique instead of sewing, because you know, how do you pull a string together that has that many colors all the way along without kind of it not working out all the way across? So we're just continuing along. So I'm looking for a total of 5 empty spaces. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4. So chain 2 and skip 2. So 1, 2, 3, and look at that, you got only 1 left. That means that is the 4th. So just going right into the final one, the 4, but watch. So what you have to do, you just got to make sure you're looking at it from the same point of view, is just go around the top section of where this is, go right into a chain, not into a space, and just slip stitch it, and that just pulled it together. So let's move up to the next row. This is row number 2. So before you move, okay, do you see how this side is a space here? This side that we're about to start will have a space as well. So chain 3, 1, 2 and 3. Okay, go right into a chain for a slip stitching like that. Now it's together, and now turn it, and because it's a space now, chain 2 finishes the space, and then you go right into the first space here for 3 double crochets, and I'll show this to you in a second. So that's how you're gonna move up. Okay, do you see that? So now they match each other. So then chain 2 and then go right to the corner. Corners are always gonna be the same. Have 3 double crochets, chain 3 and 3 double crochet. Just gonna speed up to my regular self. I know it's quick. You know how to do this already. I've already demonstrated it, so you should be able to be good to go. You're looking for that corner, which I think is the next one in my opinion. Yep, it is. And chain 2. So in the corners again, 3 double crochet followed by chain 3 and 3 double crochet. Okay, chain 2 and then just keep moving down. So again, you're looking for that final edge. The final edge will then have a space. So just like we started, it had a space, so we want to make sure that each side finishes off the same. Now if you've been following the pattern exactly, when you go to do this, they will always line up to be the right rows for each side. So you should never have a join where one side is a space and the other side is a solid. Sometimes you near the end of the project you just gotta pull it in to make it look like the space, and it's not because it's not there, it's just sometimes visually sometimes it crunches together. Okay, so we're just coming to the very final of this row. Okay, so we have a space, so chain 2, right, and we still have to put in a chain through double crochet into the final, so just go into the final right there, and before you finish then just right in the top here. Okay, just going right into a chain, don't go into a gap space, and slip stitch it, and therefore now they equal each other. So then to move up then for row number 4, before you turn it, I keep wanting to turn, is that the next row is a solid row. You can see that here, so this side should be solid as well. So let's chain 3, 1, 2, 3. So there's your first one. Join it with a slip stitch like so, turn it, and then right in the space itself you're gonna put in 3 more double crochets. So before we chained up 3 and just went right with 3 double crochets in a row, but because we're joining it as you go, is that you just have to slightly change that and you keep on going. So I'll meet you on the other side of this row and I'll show you what to do, and this would be how you would join it with a slip stitch each way instead of having to sew them. So I'm coming up near to the end and chain 2, and so the last space then has 3 double crochets in it. So 1, 2 and 3, but remember when you have these solid sides there's actually 4 double crochets in a row, so then the 4th one will be in the top of this chain 3 that you started with, and then just stretch it out and slip stitch it to the same level of the other side, and then that will conclude that round or that row. So once you slip stitch it, then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch it again to the next level up, and then begin again. So just turn, so this time it's empty space, so it'll be chaining 2 and then just jump to the next space with 3 double crochets. So that's how you chain as you go. So let's just quickly review on how to make the drawstring next, and that is done right in the top section right here. So there's gonna be a drawstring if you prefer it, and it's up to you if you want to use it or not. That's completely your business. And so what you have to just do then is just grab one strand like so, and you have to chain so that it's 50 inches long or 127 centimeters. So you just, I'm not gonna do that here on camera, but 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Do it so it's 50 inches long, and then all you're just gonna do is that you're just gonna weave it in and out of these chain spaces. So let's say it's a little bit longer than what it is, so you'll start on one side right into a chain space, and you might want to come into something like this so that it's coming in and out of these chain 2 spaces like so. Okay, so then it will be over top of this one, under here, and so far, and go all the way around, and then you'll have enough length that you can pull it. The drawstring adds the character of this not stretching too much on the top, and again that's completely optional for you. So what about fringing? Let me talk about that. So in my Caron Cake example I have fringing, and so I used one Caron Cake for one side and another Caron Cake for another, and I was left over with empty yarn, with a yarn left over, not this much of course, but I was left over, and what I did is that I took 2 of the balls, so 1 strand from one ball, 1 from another, and I measured it, and I made my fringing only 8 inches long, and it suggests to do 12 inches long here for that. So all you're just gonna do is take a tape measure and just lay it down. Once you're satisfied with one length, I actually just put it aside as my model, so then I just keep doing more and more, so just laying it out. So each one of my fringes is about the same, and you know, you can get it pretty close to each other, and then you can just do any final trimming you need. And I put 4 strands per one fringe. Okay, so I got actual 6 here. So I keep one aside as my model, that's what I want, and then the rest of it I just keep cutting. So I do a whole whack at one time, and then I could go back and do more. So taking this, I want to fold it in half like this, and all I'm just gonna do is start on one side. So because the Caron Cakes has a really unique color, I start on one side and then I go to the next, and then I do this, and I keep bouncing back and forth, and I do all one side like this all the way up, and then I keep doing that. Then I start back at the bottom on this side here, again the middle, and then I go back and forth, and you'll end up with a really good color mix if you want to. So to do the fringe, just insert your hook into a chain 2 space, pull through, and then using your hands, your fingers, just open up that hole and insert the remaining yarn through the hole like this, and just pull through like that. Okay, so then your next one will be here and here, and you just keep going until you have it. And then if they're not equal in any way, at the end you could just safely just trim along and take out any ones if you would like it to be more equal. That's completely up to you. So that's it for today. This is the Cool Poncho. This is actually a pretty cool design, and the ponchos are now back in, so enjoy this. This is a beginner pretty much level project, and I think that you'll enjoy it at the same time. Have a super great day, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye bye.